Daily Tech News Show is made possible by you listening right now. Thanks to all of you, including Ken Hayes, Philip Shane, Paul Boyer, and brand new patrons Ruben, Vinayagam, Merritt, and Arena. Yay! New patrons!
Welcome.
On this episode of DTNS, Lenovo may be ready to launch a laptop with a scrollable screen, and Shannon Morse joins us to talk about whether new rules from YouTube are making it better or worse. This is the Daily Tech News for Friday, December 20th, 2024 in Los Angeles. I'm Tom Merritt.
From Studio Animal House, I'm Sarah Lane.
From snowy Studio Colorado, I'm Shannon Morse.
From the home of the Man of Steel, I'm Len Peralta.
And I'm the show's producer, Roger Chang.
You're in Metropolis?
I am. Cleveland Metropolis, if you will.
Cleveland was Metropolis. Yeah.
Yes, but Superman is from Cleveland. He was created here.
Right. Superman was first drawn in Cleveland.
Yes.
Correct? Yeah.
Also, the heart of rock and roll is in Cleveland.
Yes, it is.
And from what I know, it's still breathing.
And I'm still breathing. I'm here, so it's good.
What about Smallville? Anyway, we are here to talk about tech news, not Superman, at least not for now. Let's start with the quick hits.
OpenAI said it's releasing early evaluations of its O3 model. Yes, it skipped O2. CEO Sam Altman said, out of respect for friends at Telefonica, owner of the O2 cellular network, and in the grand tradition of OpenAI being kind of bad at names, it's called O3. So O3 is available to researchers now who want to help safety test it. O3 Mini will arrive at the end of January, with the full model following shortly after. O3 got a 96.7% on the American Invitational Mathematics examination, compared to O1's 83.8 percentage rating. It also scored better than humans on the ARC AGI, which is a benchmark test.
A group of researchers by a team at Carnegie Mellon introduced an open source simulation system called Genesis that lets robots practice tasks in simulated reality 430,000 times faster than they would be able to do in the real world. That's the equivalent of spending decades learning to do something in a few hours. So if you want to teach it how to walk or use a tool, the simulation is quite a bit faster. It's also safer and cheaper.
Motang submitted this one in our subreddit. A bipartisan group of U.S. senators sent an open letter to automakers, criticizing them for opposing right-to-repair laws while selling customer data to insurance companies. The letter urges the companies to drop their opposition to the laws and answer questions about how they handle customer data.
R.W. Nash posted on our subreddit about Blue Sky updates. For one thing, if you use your domain name to verify yourself, you don't have to abandon your Blue Sky handle. Previously, you did, and then that could be used for impersonation. Now, the original username will be indefinitely preserved, even when you switch over to your domain, and it won't be used for anything else. There's also a new Mentions tab under Notifications.
Netflix has agreed to stream the FIFA Women's World Cup games live in the U.S. in 2027 and then again in 2031. There will be broadcasts in both Spanish and English, as well as supplemental coverage leading up to the tournament, including documentary programming. The World Cup takes place over the course of a month with 32 national teams.
Reliable leaker Evan Blass has posted images of what he says is Lenovo's 6th generation ThinkBook Plus, and it's rollable. Just the screen. You can't roll the whole thing up like a newspaper or anything. But the images show the rollable display very similar to what we saw from Lenovo when it first introduced the concept of rollable screens back in 2022. The display looks a little taller than a normal laptop, and then you pull up on the top, apparently, and it makes it even taller, so it unrolls to make a bigger screen. Demos show what look like two screens stacked on top of each other. It is reasonable to expect such a laptop would be shown off at CES, so we will be on the hunt for it when CES kicks off at the beginning of January. But Shannon, what do you think? Would you want that rollable aspect to your laptop?
Absolutely. I mean, this is so cool. This would give me the opportunity to I don't know, edit a thumbnail for one of my videos while I'm editing or watching the final edit of the actual video right below it. Like this would just give me so much more screen real estate than what I can currently get with my laptop. So yes, I would definitely use this.
Sarah, what about you? You want to be able to unroll? I think the cool thing, like Shannon's talking about, is you have that extra screen space when you need it. And if you don't need it, you just
I think that's the key part of this is, for example, I've got my MacBook Air. This is my trusty, Road Warrior, and does not have an expandable screen, although I could make it have one. But if that was somehow part of the deal where I was like, all right, I'm going to be somewhere for a while. I need more screen real estate, something like what you're talking about, Shannon, where you have to do one thing, but you definitely have to do another thing at the same time.
Yes.
That's where this stuff comes in handy. And Lenovo's, and again, this is obviously something that the company is showing off, as proof of concept at this point. But what they have shown us is pretty compelling. I love it. I think the only reason I would not love it if it was 20 pounds.
Yeah.
But if it isn't, then yeah, I'm in.
That's a big concern for myself as well, because I'm similar to you. I think about portability when it comes to my laptops. And if it's something that I can't put in a laptop and carry, or put in my backpack and carry with me onto a plane, or something that I could even open on, the backside of a seat whenever I'm sitting on a plane, like if it's not something that's actually durable and really easy to use on travel, then I wouldn't want it. So it's going to come down to a lot of those portability options when this one does eventually come out, if it does.
I wonder, well, I would imagine that the display wouldn't add too much poundage, but it's going to add some, right? Because, even when rolled up, it weighs something.
If anything, right?
But I wouldn't imagine it's hugely heavy. And then if they're designing it right, the travel should be better. Like it should be more compact when you need it to be compact. And then, yes, you can roll it out and make it bigger later. I think the reason people are so excited about this, and you're seeing so much buzz about it today, is not just that Evan Blass posted it and he has a very good track record for being able to verify these kind of leaks, but also that it's real, right? In 2022, we had these exact same conversations like, well, it looks cool, but what, when are we going to get it? And it seems like, well, maybe next year. This might be the year we finally get it. And that would kick off the rollable revolution, the way that, we saw foldable screens, 2019, I think at CES, and now foldable phones are expensive, but they're normal.
I mean, I think when it comes to a laptop, I think the rollable option to have more than one screen makes almost more sense than a mobile screen. Sure, people out there might be like, no, mobile screen, like that's also great. It's fun to have, a foldable mobile device. But what I hear from people more than any other time is when I'm at my desk, I've got my screen, I do my stuff on my screen, and I need that second screen. Mm-hmm. And if if you have your office set up, as many of us do, then maybe this isn't a need for you today. But when you're on the go and you're like, oh, man, I have to do everything on this 13-inch screen, that's where I think it comes in handy.
One of the concerns I have with just like the practicality of having a larger screen in a laptop is also the power that it would take to be able to manage having such a large screen, and how long would the battery last. So I'm very curious about these things. Whenever this product does eventually come out, how long will the battery last? How bright can the screen get? Like a lot of those technical aspects that I find are extremely important when it comes down to my job and being able to get stuff done, will really depend on how well this thing is able to do power consumption.
Do you think CES will be known for rollable screens, or will this be a one-off from Lenovo, or will Lenovo not even show it?
CES wanted to be known for rollable screens for like 3 years now.
Yeah, I mean, maybe 2025 is the year that we'll finally see rollables be like a very, very popular option at a lot of different booths. But so far, it's been like cute proprietary things, which is cool, but I want to see products coming out and it's readily available.
It's been concepts in the past. If Evan Blass is right, then this is going to be a shipping product. If there is a display maker making this for Lenovo, then they're making that display for others as well. And so I wouldn't be shocked to see a few companies, maybe companies you're not familiar with, also demonstrating rollables. Whether it actually becomes a trend or not, that's a whole different thing.
Well, Zelle, a major peer-to-peer payment platform operated by bank-owned fintech firm Early Warning Services, is now the biggest of its kind in the US. You've got PayPal, you've got Venmo, but Zelle is the most used. But it's also under fire from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, or CFPB, PB, for alleged inadequate fraud safeguards that leave victims unprotected. $806 billion flowed through Zelle last year, so that's a lot of people moving some money. Only $166 million in transactions were flagged as fraud by users of JP Morgan Bank, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo Bank. And just 38% of those claims were reimbursed. So a lot of people saying, Zelle, not protecting people enough. The CFPB accuses banks of failing to address security flaws, investigate fraud complaints, and consistently report fraudulent activity, all of which allow scams to thrive. We all know this. Early Warning Services, the parent company, defends Zelle's fraud prevention efforts, calling the claims misleading and warning that regulatory actions could end up harming consumers and small banks. I don't really know how many small banks would be affected by this, but Shannon, I know you think a lot about security fraud. What do you make of this?
I think it's really interesting because I often have similar concerns when it comes to the consumer payment systems, the kind where you can just, send your friends or family money. And oftentimes we do find that a lot of fraud happens through those kind of industries and those kind of businesses. So I think it's perfectly fine that there's regulatory actions being discussed here, because I do think that that's relevant to this issue. It does seem that there is fraud being reported, but when you think about only 38% of those claims actually being reimbursed, that's problematic when it comes to, people actually transferring money back and forth between their bank accounts.
Yeah, but if someone steals your cash, who's responsible for giving it back to you? That, I think, is the issue here, is that Zelle is more like cash in many ways.
And
it's
less
not
like a Visa card.
It's one thing when I use my bank and I transfer things from my checking account, and then I become a victim of fraud. There might be a case for the bank to cover it. But even then, when you do wire transfers, the bank goes to great lengths to say, make sure you know where you're sending that money through the wire transfer, not Zelle, because once it's gone, it's gone. We will not be able to get it back to you. I've used Zelle one time. I got all those exact same kinds of warnings. Like, when you send this, it's cash. We can't get it back for you. Even though 38% of the time they were able to get it back, apparently. But most of the time they're like, this is like giving somebody cash. You're not getting it back. And in fact, I was trying to pay my accountant with Zelle, and they called me and said, well, we see that you're trying to send money to this person. Have you ever done business with them before? I'm like, yeah, she's been my accountant.
Are they shaking you down?
That's good.
For 10 years. And they're like, well, I don't see any other transactions to this person. I'm like, not through Zelle. No. But if you look at my bank account, I've been writing checks to them, and I would like to not have to write a paper check to them because they take Zelle. And it felt overzealous. I was sort of thankful. I was very polite and happy. Like, yes, I'm happy you're preventing fraud. So I'm surprised to see this.
Yeah, I mean, I actually use Zelle to pay my rent currently. And every time I do, because the amount of money is enough to flag it every time, I have 2FA with Bank of America, which is how I use Zelle. And every time, I have to go through this, a little process to, write in my PIN that I get on my phone and, be like, yes, I'm really doing this. Like, nobody is holding me hostage right now. But at the same time, I kind of appreciate that. So the idea that Zelle is being gone after for not adequately safeguarding the general public that is using it. I don't really have that experience with Zelle. I don't have that experience with any peer-to-peer payment processor. I know that can happen. The last time that happened to me, I actually physically walked into my credit union and I had to withdraw a bunch of cash because I was moving, and the movers would only take cash. And literally they were like, "Are you safe?"
You're right.
You know,
Good.
like, is somebody making you do this? And I was like,
That's
no,
good.
I have to move. The movers are outside. Come on, let's do this. But at the same time, I kind of appreciated it. I
Yeah, sure.
appreciated
Yeah, exactly.
them saying, well, hold on a second. Like, this seems a little strange.
Yeah. Like taking additional precautions when it comes to digital accounts, but also peer-to-peer payment systems. I do think that's important. And whether it's just them simply requiring an additional step for authentication to make sure that you are exactly who you say you are, or authenticating who you're sending the money to, like they could put additional steps there and not make it so convoluted or hard for consumers that we would never want to use it anymore.
Yeah.
So we have options there. It just kind of depends on how they choose to go about that kind of regulatory effort.
And first of all, this is not a regulatory action. This is a lawsuit, which is a kind of regulatory action depending on how you look at it. But it's not like they're enforcing a rule. They're claiming negligence. So it's slightly different than just saying, oh, there was a rule here that you didn't follow. They're going to try to convince a judge that they didn't take enough precautions, not that they didn't follow the rules. And what they're saying is, Zelle required a user to have an email address or phone number and enter a one-time passcode from the participating financial institution. So you had to know they had an email or phone number that was them, and then the financial institution would send a code, and they would put that code in. And they're not even claiming there was like SIM jacking or anything. They're saying people got on the phone and tricked them into giving them that code. They fished the code out. And they're saying that that's the bank's fault. I have a little bit of an issue with that. It's one thing to say, like, this isn't a secure way of doing the codes, but that's not the argument. The argument is, and because the people were tricked into giving their codes, it's the bank's fault and they should refund the money. And I'm not sure that's true. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not defending phishing, but I don't know that that's the bank's fault that someone got phished. Granted, maybe putting in rules that say banks need to inform people more on how to not get phished. But to me, they were like, well, they were taking some pretty reasonable precautions.
And I mean, again, Bank of America, my primary bank for, everything I do with Zelle, will send me an email all the time. Like, here's how to not get phished. I mean, I do believe that banks don't want this to happen in general. They want this all to flow, the money to flow.
I don't love
as
banks
it's supposed
either,
to flow.
but I just, I'm trying to be fair.
I'm not, I'm not standing up for the banks of the world.
Yeah.
They have,
But at least they're
problems.
FDIC insured.
Right.
True.
Right. But yeah, it's sort of like phishing attacks. I mean, come on, is it really Zelle or is it just phishing attacks?
Who's getting owned? Not us.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
It gets tricky. What do you want to hear us talk about on the show? One way to let us know is our subreddit. We mentioned some people who submitted stories to our subreddit earlier on in the show. You could be one of them, or just vote on the ones that people submit so we know there's a lot of people interested in them. Go to reddit.com/r/Daily Tech News Show.
On Monday, YouTube announced it will give creators more control over how their content can be used by third parties to train AI models. Eligible creators will be able to flag content, permitting specific third-party AI companies to train models on their content. The default setting won't allow third parties to train on their videos, so you have to opt in. Tuesday, YouTube announced it's partnering with the Creative Arts Agency, or CAA. If you live in LA, it's a really big one, to start testing a tool next year that will let professionals identify content that uses their AI-generated likeness on the platform and submit requests for their removal. On Wednesday, YouTube said it will crack down harder on videos with misleading titles on thumbnails, pretty much clickbait, especially related to news and current events, because then it turns into, kind of a fake news conversation. When it identifies such titles, it will remove the video, but not issue a strike. The company didn't offer details on how it will decide what qualifies as news or current events, or how it will determine if a title or thumbnail crosses the line. So we got a lot of stuff going on from YouTube this week, Shannon. And as a YouTube creator, what do you think?
Oh man, yeah. I'm kind of excited about the changes that they are implementing. All three of them seem to be really good, positive changes, especially for creators when it comes down to it. With the story about the clickbaity titles and thumbnails, that's extremely relevant because not only if you're creating clickbait, that can cause you to have lower watch times because people might click into your videos, downvote it, and then click away. So they're not sticking around to see all the ads that you might integrate it into your video or whatever it might be. So that's going to be a positive for people. And I hope that it educates creators on how to properly do thumbnails and titles in the long run so that they do gain a loyal audience as opposed to just creating things that get one and done clicks. So that's a positive for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to less clickbait in my feed if it results in that. That'd be great.
Me too.
That would. I mean, do you have? I mean, is there sort of like a 1, 2, 3 method that you would say, like, here's how you get people to really want to watch that video because you want them to watch the video, but not lie about what the video has?
That's a good question. I use a whole lot of analytics and I use a lot of research to go into like how I do my own thumbnails on my own channel. And I don't think they're perfect by any sense, but there's even like color science that you can use for thumbnails. And there's specific wording and like how many characters you should use in your titles. So there's a lot of science behind like how to get people to click on a video. But when it comes down to it, I try to invoke some kind of emotion behind my videos. And it's not necessarily something clickbaity, but I might include a question on the thumbnail, or I might include a picture of the item that I'm reviewing so people know exactly what the topic is. But that can be a lot easier when it comes to tech videos, as opposed to if you're doing something that's more story driven. Like, how do you keep that from becoming something that is clickbaity? So then we have all these stories about AI and what's going on there and how YouTube is trying to protect the creators who are on their platform currently. Really appreciate the part that they're partnering with the Creative Artists Agency to help different content creators and professionals find if their AI or if their likeness is being used for some kind of AI generation. Previously, I know it's been a few months now, but I think it was MKBHD found a brand was using what sounded like his voice to advertise a product. Yes.
Yeah.
Which is extremely relevant in this year. And I hope that YouTube partnering with CAA is going to help determine whenever things like this are happening. So us creators can be able to take those things down or have some kind of control over our likeness before it gets way out of hand and people think that we're like advertising something that we're not really advertising.
What was the one? I'm sorry, was it the first version of Sora that sounded like Scarlett Johansson?
yes, I believe so.
It was the advanced voice mode, first version of the advanced voice mode that they demonstrated. Yeah.
And the actress was like, it does sound like me and I'm not part of this. And I have a problem with it.
So as a content creator, I would like to have the choice when it comes down to it. Like if I do want to use some AI generation tool for my voice, if I don't know, have a sore throat and I need to use it, it would be nice to have that control and not allow other parties to use my likeness just for some kind of like branded sponsorship or something when I don't have any say in the matter, especially if my contracts don't involve any kind of likeness licenses. So I think this is a really good choice that YouTube is making to protect us. And then we just recently heard about the ability to opt in. Luckily, it is automatically opted out of third-party AI training, which has also been a very hot topic in the content creator space in the last several months, mainly because there have been a few, like, I guess you could call them libraries associated with AI using videos for some kind of training, whether that's just looking at titles and thumbnails or images from videos or descriptions from videos or the videos themselves. There has been a little bit of that happening. So now that YouTube is integrating the ability to choose to opt in if you want to, or just leave it opt out right on your dashboard in the studio is extremely useful for all content creators.
Yeah, it's a good first step towards what I think ethically a lot of people agree is necessary. It's still indetermined if it's legally necessary under current laws or not. But I like that a lot of companies are getting ahead of it and acknowledging, like, look, we know a predominant number of people believe that you should get permission before training, so we're going to help with that. I think it would be great as a next step. I'm not faulting them for not including this, but a next step would be, a way for me to say, yes, you can train off my videos if you pay me, let me set a rate. And it's like, you can't train off my videos unless, you pay a licensing fee. I think that would be interesting too.
And the nice thing about this tool is you have the option, if you do turn it on and allow third party to use your videos for AI training, you do have the option of choosing which of those different LLMs or different companies that you want to work with. So say you have a branded deal as a content creator with Apple. You could turn on the ability for Apple to use training on your videos in order to use your likeness or whatever it might be. ByteDance is one of those that's included in there. NVIDIA, OpenAI. There's a whole bunch of different brands that are already included in their list. So if you do end up needing that option and ability, you don't have to turn it on for everybody. You do have
that's cool.
Options.
Yeah, especially if you're like, the open source ones I'm good with. The proprietary companies, no. You could do something like that too. That's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, before we get out of here, let's check out the mailbag.
Let's do it. Don wrote in, with all the extra AI stories because of the OpenAI daily announcements, I've been overwhelmed with the number of times I've heard about hallucinations. Don says, every time I hear that, it's like fingernails on a chalkboard. I think the conversational manner of AI chat seems like talking to a person. This is just the age-old case of garbage in, garbage out. If I search on Google, it often gives off-base answers. We see this as a bad query, and then we adjust the prompt. Does the personified AI chat answer change the view of bad answers?
I think Don has got a point that hallucination gets overused. It gets thrown around a lot. Sometimes it's not exactly used properly. But I would say a little to Don a little bit that when it is used precisely, there is something different about an AI hallucination than just wrong information. And I think there should be a distinction made between, it got it wrong and it hallucinated. When it hallucinates, the way I understand it and the way I use it, it is creating something out of nothing. It's not just wrong; it's imagining something, right? And so that whole conversation yesterday about 100 to butts is not just it got it wrong; it created 100 to butts. It created a character and a whole backstory around them. And to me, it's like, okay, that deserves more than just that's wrong information. That is made up information. That's a hallucination.
Yeah, I think, so many of us, we get used to, search queries as we've known it for decades now. It's sort of like if you want a particular answer and you ask it in a convoluted way, you're going to get a convoluted answer. And you kind of know that. There are times where I'm like, I want to remember the name of that character in that movie, but I don't even remember the movie. I kind of have to go down the rabbit hole for a while, and we're used to that. When it comes to AI search, if you get like a funny answer, you're like, hello, robot. Why are you doing this to me? Who is Hunter to Butts?
And then Jason wrote in, I just thought of a future use case for the ChatGPT phone number. I recently had the experience of calling 911 for a medical emergency. The operator was awesome and collected the necessary information for the emergency, then guided us through performing CPR. I can see an AI supplementing some of these emergency type calls: 911, poison control, 311, 411, etc.
Oh my gosh, is 411 still around?
Let's call 411 and find out. Yeah, of course it's still around. I don't know how many people use it, but it's still there.
Oh, that's great. I used to use 411 all the time.
What is the 411?
That is, Jason, I think you're right. I think there's going to be a world where when you call 911 or whatever it's called at the time, you're going to get an AI model of a person who's designed to help you, or whoever, whatever the situation is, help somebody perform CPR or otherwise. I don't think we're there yet, but that does seem to be a good use case for this when performed correctly.
Yeah, these got to be ironclad for 911. I could see it maybe collecting information and referring you as a way to kind of help with call load. I don't know if they're ready to help you perform CPR. I think in some very narrow agentic cases, maybe they're reliable enough for that.
Yeah.
Certainly for things like 411 and 311 is the digging one, I think. Is that right? Like, can I safely dig in certain places? They might be pretty useful for that. Poison control, where the information can be on rails. Yeah. There's some interesting thoughts here. Thank you, Jason. And also thank you, Len Peralta, for illustrating today's show. What's the 411 on your illustration, Len?
Oh, I see what you did there, Tom. Nice. Biggest story of the year. What would you say? AI, of course.
Never heard of it.
Never. No. Well, let me educate you, Tom.
Yeah, what does that even stand for, Len?
So AI, big story. It's also my last appearance this year going into the holiday season. And I decided to do something that was holiday related through AI. And this is Santa AI. Santa AI.
Santa
Wow.
AI.
Santa AI.
Santa
Yes.
AI.
And you know what? This was a prompt that I created in AI, and it's asking who needs Len Peralta when you can do an old-fashioned Norman
man.
Rockwell-inspired painting of Santa carrying a bag of different
Be
tech
careful,
items.
Len. Be careful.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Look, I'm here. I'm human, but I accept my robot overlords. So there we go.
You've finally given in.
I'm giving it.
So how much did you do on it? Like, you obviously generated something for it. Then did you touch it up, or
the typography? I did the
okay.
typography. I added a color layer, but everything else is all AI.
Did you have to take away any
Wow.
fingers?
No. What I tried to do is try to find the weirdest version that it could give me. And this was pretty dang weird.
That's great.
Yes, if you would like to celebrate our robot overlords, you can do so at Patreon, patreon.com/Len. Back me at the DTNS level. This image will be yours, and feel free to use this prompt in AI and see what comes up. Or you can go the old-fashioned way, go to my online store. It's lenperaltastore.com, and you can, maybe order something from me. Who knows? Let a human being draw something for you. There you go.
Oh, Len. Well, thank you for always drawing so much great stuff in 2024. We look forward to more in 2025.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Shannon Morse, also so good to have you as we wrap up the year. We have a couple shows left next week, but we're getting down to the wire here. Let folks know where they can keep up with your latest.
It's always going to be youtube.com/Shannon Morse. I recently actually did a couple of reviews on some Lenovo laptops. Now, they don't have expanding screens like the one that we'll hopefully see at CES, but I still think they're pretty cool. So if you want to see some reasonably priced laptops, then check out those videos.
Listen, folks, you might be counting down to the last minutes before you need a holiday gift, but we are here for you with our top 5 last-minute tech gifts. And I know one of you thought the regular tech gifts top 5 was too expensive. Well, these are cheaper, so it's that too. Go catch it at Daily Tech News Show on TikTok, at DTNS Show on Instagram, and youtube.com/Daily Tech News Show. Also, big thanks to everybody who bought our stickers. We sold so many stickers through the Fourth Wall store. There's stickers that Len created the art for, of me and Sarah and Roger. Thank you, Len, for creating these. Sarah's already got hers on her laptop. Maybe you do too. So if you would, please send us photos or share them with us on social media of where you put your sticker. We want to know. And if you haven't got any stickers and you want them, they're at dailytechnewsshow.com/store. Patrons, stick around for the extended show Good Day Internet. It's Friday and time for the great debates. And this week, we got some great debates about YouTube and how it affects our lives.
Just a reminder, you can catch our show live Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 2100 UTC, and you can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live. We'll be back on Monday talking about the winners of the IG Nobel Prize with Dr. Niki Ackermans joining us. Talk to you then.
This week's episodes of Daily Tech News Show were created by the following people. Host, producer, and writer Tom Merritt. Host, producer, and writer Sarah Lane. Executive producer and booker Roger Chang. Producer, writer, and co-host Rob Dunwood. Video producer Joe Kuntz. Producer at large Anthony Lemos. Spanish language host, writer, and producer Dan Campos. Science correspondent Dr. Niki Ackermans. Social media producer and moderator Zoe Detterding. Our mods, Beatmaster, W. Scottus One, BioCow, Captain Kipper, Steve Guadarrama, Paul Reese, Matthew J. Stevens, aka Gadget Virtuoso, and JD Galloway. Mod and video hosting by Dan Christensen. Music and art provided by Martin Bell, Dan Luters, Mustafa A, Acast, and Len Peralta. Live art performed by Len Peralta. Acast ad support from Tatiana Matias. Patreon support from Tom McNeil. Contributors on this week's show included Chris Christensen, Scott Johnson, Justin Robert Young, and Shannon Morse. Our guests this week were Andrea Jones-Roy, Dr. Marianne Gary, and Emily Forlini. And thanks to all the patrons who make the shows possible.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.